Yesterday is history. Tomorrow will always be a mystery. But today is a gift. That is why it is called the present. If we want to be happy, we cannot dwell in the past. We cannot worry too much about the future. We must focus our minds to be present in the present. Does your mind wake you up at 2 a.m. in the morning to solve all the problems in the world? Are you someone whose mind is constantly wandering, distracted and unable to focus? Do you spend too much time thinking about things you cannot even control? Are you worried about the past and fearing about the future instead of living in the present? Are you worrying too much about what others are thinking about you? Then this video is for you. By the way, if you must ask yourself if you worry too much or not, you probably are. We all know that if we do not have control over our minds and our thoughts, we cannot have control over our lives. We suffer twice when we worry unnecessarily. First, because if our minds are troubled or agitated, even with all the good people or circumstances around us, it will be impossible to be happy. The second reason is that the time we waste to worry is the time we do not have to live, appreciate, or enjoy our lives. In this video, we look at 3 of the most successful methods that have stood the test of time. The most prescribed solution is to take back control of our minds. The mental action of meditation is the most prescribed way to manage our minds. The core of most meditation techniques is the idea that we are free to choose our own thoughts, which can be interpreted, for example, in 2 ways: either to ignore our thoughts completely or control our thoughts completely. The first interpretation of using meditation to control our thoughts proposes not to try to stop thinking. The theologist Alan Watts compared trying to stop thinking with trying to stop the ocean waves with a flat iron. His recommendation was to leave the mind alone and allow it to settle down by itself. The trick is to let these thoughts come into our mind and go away. Just like a room with all the windows open, wind comes in through one window and wind is free to go out through another window. The wind, those thoughts, can come and go, but the room, the mind, remains. Do not feed or give those thoughts any more energy. Do not let these thoughts take you to where they want you to go. The book, Taming the Outer Child, by Susan Anderson, encourages that we decouple or separate ourselves from our thoughts. This idea is that we become observers to our thoughts, not participants anymore. In this process, we must restrain ourselves from keeping or judging or reacting to these thoughts that make us worry. Instead, we allow them to float around or just pass by. With time, their energy will run out, and these thoughts will fade away. In the very early stages, we must try not to feed our minds with rubbish. For example, avoiding social media until we become better at managing our minds. The second interpretation of using meditation to control our thoughts proposes to take back control of our minds and to shift the attention from a negative impulse to a positive alternative. One of the world's leading high-performance coach, Brendon Burchard, in his book The Charge, recommends that we force our brain to a different positive alternative and that we should never give any chances to bad thoughts. Certainly, for most of us, this is easier said than done. However, the implementation is easy. That is, we should start to pay attention to our thoughts, analyze them, and interrupt them immediately if they are notorious thoughts. then redirect our thoughts to what we want, that is, something positive. The quickest way to redirect our thoughts to something positive is to think of the opposite of that negative thought, even if sometimes we may need to close our eyes to visualize that positive thought. Brendon Burchard claims this way we can reprogram our minds for positive thinking. That we can take control of our minds is also implied by the popular writer and lecturer Dale Carnegie in his book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Dale Carnegie provides some very serious considerations, of which the following 4 can be helpful in these circumstances. We should cooperate with the inevitable, that is, accept what we cannot change. We should decide just how much anxiety or worry a teen may be worth and refuse to give it more. We should never fuss over trifles, ignore those little things, and we should never ever worry about the past. Whichever application of the mental action of meditation we choose to use, that is, either to let the thoughts flow undisturbed or to forcibly control them, will likely depend on whichever works better for us. After all, we are all different. The second solution to help solve our overthinking or worrying dilemma is to get busy. There is an old English proverb that says, "An idle mind is the devil's workshop." The reason staying busy works well is because our brains cannot run multiple tasks at the same time for a long time. A much higher success rate will be achieved if we get busy with what we love. For example, if we have hobbies, we should do them more instead of lying down and overthinking. If we love listening to music, we should try to listen to the words or lyrics of the music. Avoid staying alone or doing things alone. Find friends or other people you can discuss or share your hobbies or other activities with. If possible, volunteer or get out and support charities or friends and family. Getting busy with people has the additional advantage that we can make new real friends and understand really what it takes for real people to share love, acceptance, commitment, and respect for who we really are, not for what we assume it is from social media or from glossy magazines. At the beginning, when this battle with our minds is at its peak, some psychologists may actually advise that for every complaint our mind generates about us, or school, or work, or family, or breakfast or lunch, we should challenge our minds to determine 2 or more positive thoughts, counteracting that negative thought. Also, that we should write down and keep a record of our bad and good thoughts. However, no one normally does this, or those that do not want anyone else to read it. Note that some people actually penalize themselves when they catch themselves worrying too much. For example, taking a long walk in the park, a cold shower, or 5 to 10 push-ups. Again, everyone is different. The third solution to help solve our overthinking or worrying dilemma is to deal with or manage our expectations and any possible gaps. An expectation is the belief about whether or not we are going to get what we want. The economist and entrepreneur Nathaniel Ware blames our expectation gaps for the reason our thinking process does not match our feeling process, which can explain why a millionaire whose neighbors are billionaires can feel very unhappy. In the book, Think Forward to Thrive, the award-winning psychologist Jennice Vilhauer claims that our biggest problem is that we go about our daily lives acting on what we expect rather than on what we want. For example, if we want to lose weight, we will likely do nothing because we do not expect to succeed. We want that dream job, but we never apply for it because we do not expect to be selected. We want that dream relationship, but we never ask or make any moves because we expect to be rejected. Indeed, our expectations can keep us locked up because our minds have the automatic tendency to use the past to predict the future. If we failed once before, our minds will keep telling us that we will fail again. This will stop us from executing that good action, but will not stop us from worrying about it. However, if we are aware of what our expectations are in a situation, we can use our conscious mind to override the automatic thinking and plan how to create a different outcome. The benefit is that every successful action that we can take towards implementing our plan will start to change our expectations. When we can choose to take action based on what we want, we give ourselves the opportunity to step out of the past and to create the life that we truly want to live. Concluding, fact is that worry does not change anything but keeps us doing nothing. And doing nothing is very expensive, more expensive than a missed opportunity. Fact is that our time is precious. We should not waste it on worrying. Fact is that most of what we worry about will never ever happen anyway. Nevertheless, we should never forget that anything worth doing will take time. And only if we persist will we be able to tame our strong minds. So, give it time, but do not give up. If we are truly facing trouble, Dale Carnegie in his book How to Stop Worrying and Start Living suggests we ask ourselves the question, what is the worst thing that can happen? What is the worst outcome? By preparing for the worst case scenario, we can bring peace to our mind and instead use its energy to try to improve that worst case scenario. If you watched this video and could not listen to a single word because you were overthinking, you need professional advice. There are times when we must leave our pride behind. If we are not feeling well, we should do everything necessary to get better. If you normally just do nothing because you avoid everything without thinking about it, that is just laziness, not overthinking. Whatever you decide to do, may it make you happy.